this video, we are fishing with a camera under giant ships, and what we saw down there was unbelievable. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. We start off our morning heading out of Boca Raton Inlet. Once we get out of the inlet, we made a 20-mile run south towards Miami. About halfway there, we found these giant ships, so we decided to position the boat right near one of these massive cargo ships. Once we were in position, it was time to start setting up our underwater camera. So the first thing we do is attach the underwater camera to our deep drop rig. Once the camera is ready to go, we then attach one of these deep drop lights below the camera. Once that was all done, it was time to start setting up our baits. And honestly, today we did exactly what we did in our last video, and that was to run a mix of baits. So we attached some Bonita to our deep drop rig, and of course, we had to add some squid on. Once the deep drop rig was loaded with a bunch of different baits, we positioned the boat right near this massive cargo ship. And coming up right after this drop, we are dropping this underwater camera 300 feet deep under a battleship, so stay tuned. Now that everything was all set, we dropped the rig in the water and made our way down to the bottom. And this cargo ship that we were fishing today was only 180 feet deep, so it didn't take that long to get down to the bottom. And let us know in the comments below where you guys would want to see us drop this underwater camera next. So we are now 20 seconds off the bottom, and you guys can see there is still a lot of light down here, which is great for the Go Fish cam. We have now just hit bottom. In a couple seconds into the first drift, we saw our first fish, and it looked like a mangrove snapper. But then out of nowhere, a bunch of fish appeared. And honestly, I was in shock that fish appeared this fast under this massive cargo ship. So as our deep drop rig slowly drifted with the current, you guys can see these snapper were just following us. And that's why it's so important to be using a tough bait when you're deep sea fishing. A lot of these small fish are able to just pick off your baits, but today, like I showed you guys earlier, we were using squid and bonita, and those are both really hard baits to pick off the hooks. So now on the bottom of your screen, you can see a giant lionfish, and these fish are everywhere down here in South Florida. And let me know in the comments below if you guys have ever tried eating these lionfish before. I've heard from other locals that they actually are an awesome eating fish. But after patiently waiting for 5 minutes, we finally got into some action here. So I brought the deep drop rig a couple inches off the bottom. And sometimes with these snapper, this is a great way to get them to eat your bait. And you guys can see they followed it up, but sadly none of them took the bait. So I patiently waited it out a little longer, and this is where I finally was able to get myself a bite. So it went dead for a couple of seconds, but then this vermilion snapper popped up out of nowhere. And coming up right after this drop, things are getting even crazier. We are dropping this underwater camera 300 feet deep under a giant battleship, so stay tuned. But as you guys can see, we finally have hooked our first fish, and it ended up being a vermilion snapper. So we slowly brought him off the bottom, and these vermilion snapper are some of the best tasting snapper that you can eat. But these fish do have to be 12 inches. Luckily, this vermilion snapper was. But after 5 minutes, we finally had the snapper right under the boat. And if you guys enjoy these underwater videos, drop a like. These videos take us hours to film. So we now flipped this fish in the boat, and we were able to land that beautiful vermilion snapper. But now let's go drop this underwater camera under a giant US battleship. So we rigged up some fresh new baits, and once that was all set, we dropped the rig back in the water and made our way down 300 feet deep. And on this drop, you guys are gonna notice it gets a lot darker down here. And that's why using these deep drop lights are so effective when you're fishing this deep. So we're now about 20 seconds off the bottom, and on this drop we are landing on some type of structure. And when you're fishing the Fort Lauderdale area, there are reefs and ledges everywhere. So we now have finally just hit bottom, and off the start it was kinda dead. But we patiently waited it out, and there you go, we can see a couple fish. And honestly, I have no clue what these fish are, but they were already trying to pick off our baits. So we continued our drift below this massive battleship, and if any of you guys are good at shark fishing, drop some tips in the comments below. We plan on filming a shark vid with the Go Fish cam soon, but honestly I'm not too experienced with that type of fishing. We are now 5 minutes into this drift, and if you look on the bottom right of your screen, we can see a new species, and honestly I have no clue what that is. But we ended up then in this new area, and this drop in all honesty was kinda dead. But you guys can see all those lionfish on the very bottom of your screen, and then the grunts came back around. But out of nowhere, then a giant barracuda showed up, and he's gonna pop up on the top right of your screen here. So you guys can now see this giant barracuda on the camera. And he ended up scaring away all those smaller fish, and sadly he didn't attack our deep drop rig, which kinda sucked. But after waiting it out a little longer, nothing ended up happening, so we started bringing this deep drop rig up. After 5 minutes of reeling this deep drop rig in, we finally had it right near the boat, and sadly on this 300-foot drop we came up empty-handed. So that makes the first drop under the cargo ship the winner of today's video. We hope you guys enjoyed this fishing video, and we'll see you in the next Barjack's Family Fishing video.